I have 6:59. Okay, are we live? All right, 7 o'clock, and so I will call this meeting of the Ashland School Board to order for December 14th, 2023. Let the record show that all 5 school board directors are present. So we will start with the land acknowledgement, which will be given by Russell Hatch.
We acknowledge that the sacred land that we live and learn on today belongs to the Takelma, Shasta, Modoc, Klamath, and Umpqua peoples. We honor and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we now call the United States. We recognize the Native American people's continuing connection to the land, place, waters, and community. We pay our respects to their cultures, country, and elders, past, present, and emerging.
Thank you. Okay, so our first item is to adopt the agenda, and we have one change that I would like to propose, which is that we will hear from Hellman, who is here and ready to go before our consent agenda. So I'll take a motion to amend our agenda.
I will second.
I'll second. All in favor? All right, the agenda is approved as amended, and we will hear from our dragons.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Michelle Cutterback. I'm the proud principal of Hellman Elementary School here in Ashland. And we are excited to share something new that we've been implementing at Hellman this year. For the last couple of years, we've been working with the Playworks organization to reimagine recess and to infuse more student leadership into play. So that is what we're here to share with you, and it's my pleasure to introduce our amazing student advocate, Lawson, and some of our junior coaches, and Lawson's going to tell you a little bit more about junior coaches, and then we'll have the kids tell you the rest.
Do I need to actually speak into the mic?
I think you're fine.
Project my coach's voice. So I'm Christy Lawson. I go by Lawson at Hellman, and I was an advocate at the high school for 6 years prior to this, and this has been a really nice transition for me. I'm having a lot of fun, a lot of highlights to my day, one of which is seeing the junior coaches in action out there. And I think we have already in a short time changed kind of the culture of our recesses and are providing some really fun games for everyone, not just the younger kids. So I'm going to let these folks speak about it because they know best. So take it away.
I'm Orion Pinnell.
Hi, I'm Canyon Barrett.
I'm Lexi Crawford.
I'm Molly Mitchner, and today we'll be telling you about junior coaches. Junior Coaches is a program where 5th graders can help play games and in a safe and friendly way. Some of the things we do in junior coaching involve resolving conflicts with ourselves and other kids. We will lead expectation stations, decide the game of the week, and sometimes we get to play the games before we play them in the playground.
A few of the recess games we've led this year are Mega 2 Square, Trash Ball, Knockout, Dodgeball, Tag, a basketball tournament, Indoor Recess Bingo, and Giant Volleyball.
Today I'm going to be telling you more about Trash Ball. Lawson, Trash Ball is a game Lawson made up after helping our PE teacher, Mr. H, clean out all the old PE balls that couldn't be used anymore. We decided to try to make a game out of them to see if kids liked it. Junior coaches threw the balls into the trash can over the wall. Everyone on the other side of the wall tries to catch it and then throw it into their trash can. What seemed cool about it is that everyone seemed to forget about keeping score and was just having fun and playing. We meet twice a month and in the meetings we decide what the game of the week will be for the next 2 weeks.
we vote on a list of games, and the one with the most votes wins. Michelle will announce them over the Monday morning announcements every week.
Sometimes at our school, disagreements emerge. Sometimes it is about. Sorry, I'm nervous. Sometimes it is about who gets the ball, who is out or not, and who scores the point. When it happens, junior coaches will call for a redo, decide who is out, and act as a ref, or do rock, paper, scissors. You can always tell them to think back to the wheel. We also encourage them to keep the game going.
Expectation stations we do at the beginning of the year and after winter break to review how to be safe, respectful, and responsible in different areas of the school. This year, junior coaches are creating videos to review the expectations for the playground.
Beginning of our
High level of enthusiasm.
We will also help lead the stations at the other areas of the school.
Okay.
Good to hear it twice.
Some of the positive impacts are less arguing among kids. Recess in the library is due to more activities on the playground. Fifth graders look forward and are excited to go to junior coaches. The students who aren't junior coaches are excited about becoming a junior coach in the future. Kids love the new games and less issues at recess that need instructional time to resolve.
We interviewed some of the junior coaches to see what they liked about it. Some of the things was kids said it was fun to work with the little kids. It was fun to be a ref and coach. I like seeing the smiles on kids' faces when they're playing the game. The most common things junior coaches like about the program is helping out other kids. They also like getting out of class, hanging out with friends, and seeing other kids having fun.
Any questions?
No questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
My question is, what of the games that you listed is your trash ball looks fun? What's your favorite game that you listed, each of you?
Mega 2 Square.
Mega 2 Square.
Trash ball.
Mine is the basketball tournament.
Do you want to tell them what Mega 2 Square is?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Mega 2 Square is a game where we play 2 square on a big mat, and it's like mat. It's like a
We
bigger
use
courtyard.
the big wall for the Mega 2 Square.
And it's like a big version, and you can play up to 2 to 4 players on each team.
And it was also made up by one of our
And it was also made up by one of our junior coaches.
Danny.
Danny. We can say his name.
Yes, Danny.
So how many junior coaches are there altogether?
You know?
Like 30 or something?
Wow.
26.
26?
There are
And how
26.
How does somebody get to be a junior coach?
So technically, we decided this time they were junior coaches this year. I'm pretty sure they picked them out on who was kind, and they noticed that they were a good person. Yes, you may talk.
The teachers decided good people they thought for junior coaches.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Ready?
You tried.
Okay, ready?
3, 2, 1. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Nice job, everybody.
All right, thank you for being here, Hellman. That was great.
We're on TV.
You are, and this is recorded, so you're up there now forever.
These junior coaches are so shy.
Nice job. Okay.
3 more when we're ready.
Okay, so,
Just put them.
yeah, we do have a limit? Or this is, we're up to 30 minutes, right? Okay.
Start telling them they have to have representatives.
Okay, but we're definitely going to be 2 minutes. Okay, so moving on to the less exciting part of our meeting. Our next item is the adoption of the consent agenda. So everybody has had a chance to read through all the items that are included here, which is a pretty good list today. So I will take a motion to either approve the consent agenda as stated, or if anybody has anything they want to pull out to talk about.
I would want to just pull out policy DH loss coverage for a brief conversation.
Okay. We don't need to vote on that, right? We can just pull it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you can have the floor.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm fine with, do we vote on the rest of it?
I know, I think when I pulled it out in the past, we've just had the conversation.
We just have the conversation and then approve the rest of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds great. So, my question is the board bonded? So, no. Can you talk about that?
So in the past, individual members of staff, usually the superintendent and the business manager, were individually bonded with a fidelity bond, and the amounts would vary depending on how much you want to pay for every year. $50,000 would be a common amount, maybe up to $100,000 each. Several years ago, the statute changed to allow those. Instead of having the individual fidelity coverage, it would be covered under our general crime coverage as part of our liability insurance. So our overall crime policy would cover all of our staff, actually, up to $500,000. So it's for staff members. I don't believe it's for board because it's covers financial losses, basically, for crimes or fraud or whatever, and board doesn't have access to district funds.
So if the board, I'm just trying to think, when people sue the school district, ultimately they're suing the board, is that correct?
Yeah, so unless it would be covered under the general liability policy of the district.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily a crime policy.
So if anybody here commits a crime, we're kind of SOL. Excuse me, we're out of luck.
Yeah, I mean, if you're working in the best interest of the district under what your normal duties are as the board, then yes, you're covered by the district. But if you go outside those bonds, just like an employee, if I went outside the bond balance of my job duties, I wouldn't be covered by the district.
Okay, so if we stay within our job duties.
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay, anything else?
Oh, one other quick question. Jackie, is it that OSBA colors the stuff that they want to take out green and the stuff to include yellow? Because it's really hard for me to...
No, I did that to accommodate the normal track changes. Colors don't really work for Samuel, so I think Erica invented that, and I just copied it. It's Erica here.
Okay, I have to, yeah.
I can do something else, but I'm trying to make sure that everybody who can view whatever we're
fair.
doing.
I think the question is what are OSBA recommendations and what are district recommendations? Is that?
Well, no, it's like when I'm reading the policy that has the yellow is what we're supposed to be putting in, and the green is what we're supposed to be taking out, and it's just very hard for me to get used to that because I'm
Green is go. Yeah.
But well, talk to me afterwards. We could do something different.
Okay, that sounds great.
I think the banana that works.
Oh, green banana's bad. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
That was Jill and Russell, right? Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so, and we had our school report already, so we will move on to our recurring reports. The first is AHS student report with, so we have Willa and Kendra here tonight to do that.
Thank you for having us. Both of our ASB presidents are sick, so we're having the representatives do the student report. So our winter sports started off with a girls' basketball home opener against Manzama, which we won, hopefully the first of many. And then this Saturday, boys and girls basketball at SOU, both play Phoenix. Boys' season opener should be exciting. Phoenix is somewhat of a rival. And then we had our annual Winter Fine Arts Fair, or Fine Arts Festival. So it had visual arts, live music, performances from theater students, pretty successful as usual. And then our Thanksgiving food drive, which was a class competition, which got quite a few points. So.
And then we also had our Ashland Culinary Festival, our junior competition, and that was won by AHS, by Jack and Armin, who are both seniors. And this past week, we've been having our Spirit Week for like holiday themes. And tomorrow is Festive Friday, so very exciting. And then today was our Winter Wishes Assembly, where we granted upwards of 60 random fun wishes to students, like gifts that the school sponsored. And so, yeah, there was no catch, well received, everyone loved it. So, yeah, pretty fun week.
All right, thank you. Next, we have AEA report with Alan Porowski.
Thanks. Everyone had a report this week, but it's all good stuff, except for SB 819. Let's see. Ashland Connect says Ashland Connect continues to steadily grow, with another student added in November and 2 more in the enrollment process. Last month, students created artwork for the Ashland Community Peace Meal on Thanksgiving. The Ashland Connect teacher, Amanda, as well as a few students, attended the event to help set up and decorate the room, which was a positive and a heartwarming experience for all. This month, they're looking forward to creating solstice lanterns and participating in 2 optional solstice events, one with Walker and one with Trails. Both schools have been incredibly welcoming of Ashland Connect, and Amanda is very grateful for the support and kindness. Over at AHS, caseloads for Ashland High School counselors are currently at 465 because we lost a counselor. And due to the hiring freeze, we are unable to hire a new one. Concerns about the implications for this decision. Moves to Lincoln are expected to wrap up at the end of this week, and a big shout out to the science department for rallying together to accommodate the unexpected timeline. Collectively, they have logged nearly 100 hours in the last 2 weeks on top of their teaching schedules and have cleared out and packed the cavernous depths of the science building. Over at AMS, the Builders Club organized a food drive as well as contributing to the benefit concert for Ukraine. Our band, orchestra, and the newly formed choir performed at the concert. The AMS scavenger hunt won first place at this year's competition. We had our Trimester 1 assembly to celebrate all the ways students have been contributing to our community. We celebrated with an after-school device-free dance. It's been great to see our students coming together to create a positive and welcoming environment. SB 819 is definitely having an impact on our classrooms, as we do not have the EA support to help with the needs of all students in our classes. The special education push-in model is not appropriate for all students, and we are concerned that some of their needs are not being met. At Bellevue, we delivered winter care boxes to families in need yesterday. We had a very productive training last week for school-wide MLK Day activities. Some teachers are reporting missed lunch and prep times due to district meetings and student behavior due to the requirements of SB 819. We will hold our staff celebration in January. At Hellman, our Dragon Running Club is going strong, kicking off the day with healthy connections and track laps. Junior coaches ensure recess continues to be positive. We are incredibly grateful for our skills class staff who support students with unwavering patience despite the unsustainable demands of SB 819. We had a fun spirit week with sparkles and animals and dragonware. In addition to walk and roll to school Wednesdays, we just added a walking bus to promote walking and biking to school. The PTA sponsored our annual Giving Snowflake project with gifts and food boxes for family. We are grateful for our affinity groups and their leaders. We had a tremendous turnout to our affinity group luncheon yesterday with 42 students attending. The awesome Ann Cologne won 103.5 Cool's Teacher of the Week. So go Ann and go Dragons. Over at Trails, last night we had our winter fair events. Families enjoyed an evening filled with open mic, craft room, game room, a gift room with wrapping, and our community room was filled with highlighted student work and handmade crafts to purchase from each class. Tomorrow we will be celebrating Solstice as a whole school. Everyone has been rocking it and really coming together as a team. 2 to go. Walker says, students have been preparing for our Walker Winter Show, Stormy the Singing Snowman, and are looking forward to finding a sweet gift for a friend or family member at our Gumdrop shop. Everyone has been working hard to create a fun and engaging last week of school before break. Buddy classrooms are doing art projects, grade levels are joining together for solstice activities, affinity groups are gathering, and our teachers, EAs, and support staffs are rocking it. It has been challenging for our custodial staff to keep up with all the cleaning because we have had many days without subs. Now we have lots of goose poop on our playground that is being tracked into our building. SOU people, that's one of the things they don't teach us at MAT school, how to deal with goose poop. So tell them to put that on the agenda. Willow Wind says, tonight is one of Willow Wind's favorite events, the Winter Fair. Families come to celebrate the season and build community while enjoying tea and a variety of fun crafts. Tomorrow morning is our Community Friday Solstice celebration. Community Friday events now happen every week and include a variety of activities, including a fun run, singing with Tish, thanks to support from ASF, and multi-age diversity lessons. Students are upbeat and happy as they finish up their unit studies and prepare for winter break. And that's all from the front lines.
Thank you. That's a lot of news. Mostly good. Okay, next we have OSCA report with Stephen Essig.
OSCA
doesn't sound like it.
Hello.
That's better.
So OSCA has been thankful for the productivity that's come out of our joint OSCA and District Labor Management Committee. So we want to thank the district for all of the work that we've been doing in there. Since the beginning of the year, we've had 3 MOUs put into effect: the Paid Leave Oregon MOU, the Payroll Date MOU, and the Just Cause MOU. So we look forward to the district posting these MOUs to the employee page for classified staff to easily access. In our most recent meeting this Tuesday, we came to 2 tentative agreements on 2 more MOUs, and we have 2 more in the works. And we expect to bring those to you guys next month before we go into our full bargaining. The 2 MOUs we came to tentative agreements will be sent out to members for a vote in the coming weeks, and we'd like to get the board approval hopefully by the next board meeting. The first one is related to emergency substituting. This is an MOU that was in effect last year. We basically just updated it to just for the new pay rates for subs. And that will allow classified staff to sub for teachers if they are meet the licensing qualifications and everything. The other MOU we've titled Supporting Students with Individual Plans is related to Senate Bill 756 and provides steps to create a plan for how classified staff can access records of importance so they can better support students, and how classified staff can provide valuable input in meetings about students' individualized education plans. Ashland Schools has been historically really thoughtful in how classified staff voice is represented in these instances. So this MOU really just solidifies how we do that and makes it easier for classified staff to understand what their role is and how they can better support students and help families during IEPs. So classified staff, especially EAs, are still having a lot of problems finding subs to cover for them when necessary. This is really troublesome among the lower grades, where EAs are like integral in maintaining supervision and keeping student to adult ratios manageable. We'd like to extend special recognition to our classified staff at AMS who have gone above and beyond. We know other sites, they're also going above and beyond, but specifically we got word from AMS that during lunch there's a number of classified staff been running a craft station for students to make holiday hats and sweaters, which is just like a fun, silly thing for students. Another classified staff at AMS runs the Brain Bowl Club. They also did the scavenger hunt just a couple weeks ago where Ashland placed first. And they also run a program after school to build like production sets and theater stuff for the school. So there's a lot of staff doing things that are above and beyond. We also got word that they're retooling the academic support center. That classified staff run during lunch and I think before school or at the start of school. And they're looking to retool it to provide supports for students who are behind and have missing skills. Previously, it's just been like students who are missing a lot of assignments. So they're trying to be more purposeful in who they're bringing into that space to get people caught up. And a lot of these projects just wouldn't happen without our classified staff. So we're really thankful for them, and we really do make the school run through both direct work and indirect work with students. Finally, many of our staff are going to be going on break with the rest of the school community, but we want to recognize that the custodial, maintenance, IT, HR, student services, accounting teams, bus drivers even, and office managers are going to be working through the break. And even when you think the mouse isn't stirring, there's no creatures stirring, they're still there at the schools, keeping them running in the background. So we're really thankful for them while we're gone on our break. So that is all I got for today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephen. So that student support center, that's specifically at AMS?
Yeah, the academic support center, specifically at AMS.
Okay.
Yeah, they're retooling some stuff, so
great.
Exciting.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next we move on to board reports. So anybody want to kick us off?
Sure.
Russell?
Highlights from the last month, I would say, would be the meeting that we all had with Hank Harris on the superintendent search. I think a lot of good work was done there, and I continue to be impressed by his professionalism and the skill that they're bringing to the process. And then the other big highlight would be the innovation committee for calendaring. We're just researching options. And so there were a couple meetings there. The highlight so far would be the robust response to the survey that was put out. Like there's so many people responded and a really in-depth reasoning for what their choices were on those surveys. So it helps us a lot as we're trying to map out what we might suggest at some point in the future. And I just continue to be impressed by everybody's effort and professionalism as they're researching all these options. It's really, really in-depth, and the discussion is deep and thoughtful and taking into account as many different perspectives as possible. So I'm really pleased to be on that committee. It's a great group of people.
Okay, so following up on that, the Reimagining High School Innovation Committee has also been a really wonderful process. We are very thoughtful. We are taking our time because we know, I think similar to the calendar committee, these are really big decisions. And we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing and thinking through all of the possibilities and exploring. We are looking now to reaching out to students and staff to get feedback. That's kind of the next process. And we got to meet with the calendar committee. I have to say, I've heard all sorts of things. Apparently dinner happens at the calendar committee, which we do not do that. So I'm thinking you're up in the game, and we need to do something about that. So I had a great meeting with the calendar committee. I realize we're following a similar process, and to some degree we're kind of interdependent. So it'll, like I think many of these committees are. So yeah, so that was really great.
All right. Do you want to save yours for the later? or do you
No.
wanna- Okay.
Well, yeah, no. Let's see. So I went to the ASF board meeting. Also, Trails had their one time a year where parents are allowed to go to Earth Teach, which is kind of public. Well, it's a land that's held within a nonprofit that you can have public access to, and Trails takes advantage of that. And it's this beautiful property up off of Indian Road, and it was a beautiful experience where we collected branches for the winter fair at both Walker and for Trails. So that was really beautiful to see what they're doing up there. And also just went to the winter fair last night at Trails, and Russell and I are missing the winter fair at Willow Wind right now.
I feel like time flies because I feel like the last time we had a regular session board meeting was the night before the OSBA conference. Is that correct?
No, it's only been 3 weeks
Oh, it's only been 3 weeks. Okay.
Thanksgiving.
So we already have talked about the conference.
Yeah, so it's kind of short.
Thank you. But so I won't mention that. But productive work sessions, several community member meetings, got an opportunity to head to the Trails PTC meeting to see what they're up to, which is exciting stuff, and many, many hours of innovation committee, subcommittee work, which we'll be hearing
We'll
about
hear
in a
more
second.
about.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it has only been 3 weeks and so much going on. But I just want to highlight, you guys mentioned the Winter Fine Arts Festival at the high school. That's something that I've sort of been involved with for a number of years. And I just to me, that is one of the most special events that we have in this district. It's the one time where every single arts student gets to display their stuff. So you've got everything from photography and textiles and, all the visual arts. And then you have a whole performance with theater and music, band, orchestra, choir. And then you get a free dinner. Well, with your ticket, you get a dinner from the culinary students. So it's like this wonderful display of everything we have to offer. And this year, I think, was just so nice to see. I mean, we did manage to do it over COVID virtually. And then the next 2 years was just sort of bringing it back and getting more students involved in these programs. And this year was the first time I just felt like, wow, we are really back up to full speed. And there was like a packed house in the auditorium, and just the level of the enthusiasm there, and the students and the attendees was really great to see. So that was very nice. And I am going to give some props to our amazing senior class at the high school. I heard today that we had a student admitted to Columbia and 2 to Princeton. So very exciting stuff. Props to the excellence of our academics at the high school and everything that is offered there. So that's it for me.
Does Willa do you want to give an update?
Yes. So about like a week or two ago, are we switching to our update?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Cool.
Yes,
Sorry.
you are next on the agenda.
Jump the gun.
Or, yeah, so I think you were going to do do you want to do them first? That's fine.
Well, it makes sense to do them first. Is that okay? Kind of
guys ready to go? All right, we're going to amend the agenda, even though we didn't approve it. But you guys go ahead and give your student rep report.
Cool. So about a week or two ago, we had the Hellman Community Service Day. So a bunch of little 3rd and 5th graders got to come onto AHS campus, and we played some games with them. We did like a community service like cleanup, and they got to like draw all over the walls and stuff like outside on the sidewalk. And so yeah, that was super sweet to just like get them integrated into knowing some like high schoolers and leadership kids. So that was super sweet to see them on campus.
We had an SRO meeting. What was that, like a week or two ago? Yeah. 2, 3 weeks, some time ago, where we just touched base again, established our next steps. It's definitely the more questions we answer, the more questions come up. But we have another meeting scheduled pretty soon. We're going to be meeting up with the Ashland Police Department to just ask direct questions and then get an initial pre-survey, then a full survey out, hopefully, in the next couple of months. Also helped out with the Hellman volunteer. Oh, and I'm Kendra. I don't know if I ever fully introduced myself, but I'm the alternate for this semester for when Noah wasn't able to make it. And then 2 days ago, I attended the site council meeting where we just kind of look at all of the data of the high school and then our weak points and our strong points, and then establish some goals and how to get those goals across. Also, a little shout out to Hank and Noah, who have been attending all the bond meetings for the construction and just kind of keeping us all up to date on that. But yeah, thank you.
So, and I hear they are under the weather today, so I hope they recover quickly, certainly before the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you. And I know we are all looking forward to hearing more about the SRO and what you're gathering from students, so appreciate that. Okay, back to you, Jill.
So, Krista, I'm going to let Krista introduce herself, but we are going to give a little update on, so the Enrollment Innovation Committee that Samuel and I are in charge of has to do with increasing enrollment. And Dan is now very much a part of this. And so we just wanted to bring the board along as far as where we are, so that there was some, so that just we're bringing you along in our process. So Krista's going to give you an update.
Okay. Good evening. Hi, my name is Krista Palmer. I've lived in Ashland for 3 years now. I'm a first grader at Bellevue. I'm an occupational therapy practitioner, and I've had experience as a community organizer, working with local churches and city government, working to streamline services for people experiencing homelessness in Santa Ana, where I used to live. That's in Southern California. I joined the Increasing Enrollment Innovation Committee because I want to lend my time and my skills toward supporting the district in its goals of increasing enrollment through the development of housing for those students. Families first need a safe, affordable place in order they need a safe, affordable place to live in order to integrate into a community. And a large part of them integrating in that community includes participation in public education. Cool. Okay. So tonight I'm here to provide an update regarding the progress of the Increasing Enrollment Committee. That will include a recap of the challenges the ASD faces with its enrollment numbers. It'll be a summary of the committee's proposed solution and what the next steps are. So if you could please hold any questions until the end for Jill and Dan will answer those for you. All right, so the challenge we have is that tremendous work has already been done by the city and the district to clearly exhibit the dynamic of our city's population and the shifts that are occurring within that. So here we'll be briefly addressing the changes in demographic that directly affect the school district. So as you may recall, Jill had previously presented this data showing that Ashland has the lowest percentage of households that consist of couples or families with children. That's as compared to the rest of Jackson County and Oregon as a whole. According to the most recent demographers report, with the impact of open enrollment ending, that was 2019, I believe, there's a projected loss of enrollment that will equate to approximately 194 fewer students over the next 10 years. So our assumption is that families are moving due to a lack of affordable housing in Ashland. It's common misperception that the district loses students to private schools, and as you can see here with the data, we know that most students we lose go to other public schools. Oop, wait. It's not really aligned, is it? Sorry, I'm usually on a Mac. There we go. Given this data, the Increasing Enrollment Committee has established a goal to increase enrollment by 6%, or about 154 students in 2 years. So this equates to about $1.7 million in state funding to the district per year. So this brings us to the proposal of the Housing Subcommittee. lack or availability of affordable housing has become a primary driver in where people choose to live, particularly families with school-aged children. It's expensive to raise kids, and housing is becoming more and more expensive. Here lies a confluence of the conclusions drawn from Ashland's housing production strategy from the city, which asserts a definite need for affordable housing and the need for the district to attract more families to enroll their children. So building affordable mixed income family housing on district property shows that the district understands that it can help be part of the solution. It has been made clear that the school district is not in the business of housing. It's in the service of education and nurturing the children of this community. While the district has shown interest and appreciation for this initiative and wants to be a part of the solution, it is not in their best interest to spend time, money, and resources toward directly implementing that goal. So to fulfill the requests and concerns from the district, we've decided to use the model set by Jefferson Union High School District Educational Housing Corporation in Daly City. This model has already been established and shown to be effective. The project started with a need for affordable workforce housing to aid in recruitment and retention of staff. The school district then supported the establishment of a nonprofit organization to advance and support the district's educational mission. The Educational Housing Corporation oversees the management and operation of affordable housing for district employees, and it engages in other activities that are reasonably related. So, what Ashland School District's Innovative Enrollment Committee has looked at that model and expanded it beyond simply housing for staff, but also creating more affordable housing for families to move to the area and subsequently enroll their children in the schools. Establishing a 501c3 is where the committee takes the first step in meeting the district's need for increased affordable family housing. We've called it the Sunstone Housing Collaborative. Referring back to the board goals, to brainstorm, to think outside the box, to propose creative ideas for future consideration, Sunstone was born with the mission to increase long-term sustained enrollment in the district. The purpose of Sunstone is to support the educational mission of the district by facilitating the development of affordable housing for district staff and families. And I learned through this process that the Sunstone is the state gem of Oregon. You can go forage for it all over. There are certain places you can go forage for it. All right, so before Sunstone moves forward with any plans for developing housing, a legally binding agreement will need to be established between the nonprofit and the district. This will involve retaining an attorney, drawing up a master service agreement, creating bylaws, and establishing a voluntary board that includes ASD board members in order to advocate for the district's best interest and vision for the ASD land. Upon the creation of a legal working agreement between Sunstone and Ashland School District, and in an effort to maintain equity and transparency for the process, Sunstone will announce a request for proposals from developers, hopefully in the spring. So with Sunstone Housing Collaborative overseeing and managing the development of housing on ASD land, the district's interests are maintained without the burden of using district resources to carry out the plan. So that's all I have for now. And I will open it up to Jill and Dan for questions. Thank you.
Do we have additional materials?
We do. We were going to save that for after questions, right? are we going to bring up, or do we want to show those now?
What?
Well, I guess if we want to give you a teaser of what this could look like, we could pull up. Do we have those?
Yeah, just keep clicking. It should just be,
Okay.
It should just be there.
Oh, there it is.
So, and this is a visual of what it could look like. So, pretty exciting. Chris Brown did this for us, and it's an example of a mixed income housing on district property. It has a combination of cottages, townhomes, apartments, and answers to a lot of different needs within the community and a lot of different needs for the district. So this is, obviously this is not a blueprint, this is just a vision of what it could be. And in addition, if you keep scrolling down, there's an example of kind of what those, I mentioned cottages, apartments. Here's some examples of some innovative building that's happening around the country, really quite frankly around the world, because this is a global problem. But because I think we have an international example in here, but these are some container homes that we could look at, kind of the interior of what those look like. You can scroll down a little bit further. And here's just some other examples. This is a housing development of townhomes in Portland. You can scroll down. In France. And this one's in Belgium. So these are all really innovative building projects that are affordable and sustainable. So just to try to help with the vision of where we're going. So any questions from the board?
I have a couple questions. Yeah. The Jefferson Union High School District, that's the model that it's being based off of. How long has that been in existence, and what's its track record been?
Do you want to take
Since
this?
it was established in 2020,
Okay.
and they have a housing development that has been built. I believe that's the one, Jill, that you. Oh no, that's not the one that you drove by.
Oh, it's not.
No, but they do have they have phases that they're implementing the housing, and they do have a section that is completed, and they have they're focusing specifically on district staff because they were experiencing just a lot of their staff, both classified and teachers and everyone, they were having a really difficult time retaining staff. So this was their focus, and it's been successful so far. If anyone is interested in more specific information, they have a great website about their nonprofit and how that integrates with the district and how they're working together. And it shows the success that it has made in just a short time.
Yeah. So to be clear, I'm really excited about this. I think it's an amazing potential solution. I'm also excited that there's some people out there who've already sort of broken the ground on it and led the way a little bit, so we can get a sense of what their process was like, and have we been in much direct communication with them? Do you have an idea of like what sort of pitfalls they ran into, or things that we can avoid that might make the process smoother for us?
Yeah, and I think the way I'll answer that is first that none of this happens without fairly intensively complex partnerships between various public and private entities and basically anybody that's interested in overlapping goals of attainable housing for the city. Our interest, again, is in increasing enrollment for the school district, but there's not one approach that's going to work. So it's not just Jefferson Union. That one is interesting because it's very specifically a partnership between a school district and a nonprofit whose aims are housing that benefits the school district. But there are, and you can talk more about this because you've toured some and you're aware of some, there are many, many, many new, they're all brand new models around within the past couple of years of public-private partnerships where, or public-public partnerships where a bunch of folks are working together to provide housing for municipalities. There's one in Colorado that's for Forest Service employees. So what we'd want to do over the next few years is kind of look around what everybody's doing along these lines and be in really close contact with what works and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. So there's an advantage to being just half a step behind, and that we get to see what folks are doing. Yeah. Even in the region, there's really cool stuff with, if you're familiar with New Spirit Village in Medford, which is a land trust, that's super interesting. We're in communication with and meeting with the city and SOU on other projects that dovetail with this.
And so the creation of the nonprofit and land trust would essentially buffer the district from any need to manage the property directly, or also would it buffer the district from any potential financial responsibility for the property after it's established, or how does that work?
Well, so right now all we're doing is establishing a 501c3 designation for a nonprofit, and that's so that we can start applying for grants. But the point in time when we're going to want to get really, when we really want to scrutinize, and I mean the entire board, like over the details of how the arrangement is between the nonprofit and the district, is when we draw up the bylaws and the master service agreement. That's when we'll want to look like really with a microscope at how the district is protected, how the nonprofit operates outside of the district, and how those entities, are both kind of coexisting and yet also that not opening up liability. So this phase really, and again, because we didn't want to come to you with bylaws and master agreement, that felt like too far down the road. We wanted to let you know that we're setting up the nonprofit first, and it still is completely separate from the district. But it allows us to do the work to get the attorney and the bylaws and the master service agreement. And at that point in time, we'll bring those forward for you all to, to really scrutinize and make sure that we're protecting the interests of the school district.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
The kind of the thing about the Jefferson Union thing is a way to get it out of the hands of the district, but in a way that the district still retains a lot of stake in it by nominating board members to serve on the board of the housing, what do they call it, the Educational Housing Corporation.
Mm-hmm. There's 2 board members.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Jefferson? Is that in Portland area?
Daly City.
Oh, just outside of San Francisco. Yeah. And so just so I'm clear, so what's sort of the timeline? We're looking at the nonprofit being established, and then what's the timeline to that next step? Maybe.
Yeah. So the next step would be in the spring. Would be to send. Well, the next step. Sorry, would be the agreement, which would happen in the spring, early spring, and with the goal of getting an RFP out in the spring to contractors. So just to give you an idea of timeline, even by doing those 2 things by the spring, the quickest we could have even a phase 1 completed would be the end of 2025. So the timeline we're moving in is trying to get, something completed, one phase completed by 2025.
So one phase would be a portion of what you were showing.
A portion of what we were showing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Which is relatively fast compared to all. I mean, I've researched a number of different situations, mostly in California, but a few other states, and that timeline seems rather. I mean, that's a very generous. That's a fast timeline compared. And this project proposal is a lot smaller than a lot of these other districts are doing a much larger construction. so that's to be taken into effect. But yeah, there's quite a few other projects that are happening along these lines as well.
My understanding is that, there's a lot of really innovative stuff going on in construction that can help us,
Yes.
Get things really moving along much quicker than they have in the past.
There is, and there's
That's exactly why.
yeah. And there's a little bit of a time concern. Part of the reason that the Housing Subcommittee of the Enrollment Innovation Committee wants to work fairly quickly is because funding is available now and very soon. We're talking like January is when new funding opportunities open up for housing from the state. And yeah.
Yeah, so you want to be prepared to apply for grants, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many? I'm sorry.
That's okay, yeah. So I have a number of questions. One is, I know I grew up with equal opportunity housing and rules about who, you cannot establish rules about who can live where. How is this different than that?
When you go for federal or government funding, you can set stipulations around occupancy. So you cannot say that it's only open to children, but you can say it's only open for 3-person households or 4-person households. And so it allows us to target households of need that a majority will be that number of household because they have children, because there are children in that household. So that's one of the primary ways that we can target that.
And I would offer one of the things that we have been talking to, and we'll talk to the city more about, is being very careful about needs assessment. So we're hearing what kind of housing do families need, and you design the housing for that need. So you would design the housing for families, and that's what you get. If that makes sense.
So, well, what about, except what about staff? So we want to attract staff, but they may not have children. They may be single.
That's correct.
Right.
And so there's going to be, there's potentially a whole bunch of different approaches to use here. And there's, the Jefferson Union is one model, but there are plenty of models, and they're all newer within the past few years, of entities that have been able to dedicate, 20% of a housing development for their staff, for example.
That's all going to be based on surveys that we do, because there's some survey fatigue right now. We're timing that in the spring, working with the union on surveys to find out what the need is first from the district.
Mm-hmm. And what about the district? Where's the district at with all of this?
I think if it meets really the criteria that we're getting the full market value for the land, that we don't really have to engage in the operational side of it. And I think what was the other piece I was going to mention about that? And I think looking at kind of a phased approach to it, I think it's worth exploring a little bit further. And I think one of the attractive pieces is that, and this is just hypothetical at this point, but one of the attractive pieces is being able to utilize those dollars for some much needed capital repairs.
Yeah, I think my one concern just is, I think it's a great idea. I really do. My just concern is making sure that it's families with young children and it's staff. And that I have concerns about if somebody's a staff member and then they quit, right, or they're fired. They're going to still take that space. And so, or, people move in with, a family is 2 parents and 2 older teenagers, for example. So, I have concerns about that part because I really would want it to directly benefit the district.
And that's part of the reason for having school board members on the board of the nonprofit. There are other very interesting housing efforts in the region, and I just heard a presentation on Monday from Dr. Rick Bailey about stuff that SOU is doing that includes the mixed senior and student housing, and which is awesome and super exciting. And they're thinking about housing that for staff and faculty, and so there's a lot of room for a lot of different approaches. What I would offer is, without going down too many rabbit holes here, is that there are ways to do things like for faculty and staff that are rentals. So, for example, when they don't work for the district anymore, it's not an owned house that's tied up by somebody that doesn't work for the district anymore. It's something that's rented by somebody, or you can do things where our idea is that there's not going to be one size fits all approach here. That there's going to be a bunch of different things done over a lot of period of time, where maybe some of it's land trust, working with the city. Maybe some of it is working with Housing Authority of Jackson County on subsidized housing. Maybe some of it on high-density multifamily. Maybe some of it is rental cottages. Maybe some of it is, we don't know that yet. But that will all be dictated by what the needs assessment tells us continually.
I think what would be helpful for me too is like a lot of data. So it looks like, this is a great presentation. These are great ideas. I'd love to see all of the districts that have done this, what their outcomes have been, where they are. It's great to hear about one, but I'd love to know about the other ones. And, in terms of who they're filled with, like who's moving into them and how are they guaranteeing that these are the folks that they want to move in. So that would be super helpful.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I ask a...
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. You've mentioned the district getting fair market value for the land. So is the idea to sell the land into a trust, and then the district actually gets money from that we can use for our capital needs?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so that, if we were in a position where we were thinking about selling the land one way or the other, then that, if we can do it in a way that even might turn into a long-term benefit for the district, that's great.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
There's no loss there.
There's also ways. There's so many directions. That's why we don't want to we're trying to take this one piece at a time with you all to kind of bring you along. There's so many different directions we can go as far as even, where there are school districts that do behave as property managers. The nonprofit side has a separate committee that acts as property managers and collects income, and then that income goes directly just like into the district. So there's lots of different avenues that we're going to consider. Most of that can be wrapped up within the RFP that will go out because, for example, Packwall Systems, which has just opened up a full manufacturing facility in Talent, or is in that process, they have ways of structuring it to where it's rental, and a separate committee, for example, could serve as the management for the properties, and then that income could come in. So we're going to consider all of those things. I think we just have to take it kind of one piece at a time, and make sure we're doing it correctly. So yeah. Well, that's it. I'm sure we took more than 20 minutes.
Wow, well, that was very exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good stuff. All right, so I think we are then up to, we did the student representative. Okay, so we are up to public comments, and we have quite a few this evening. So I will just call them up, I believe, in the order that they were received. And Samuel, will you be our timekeeper? So just our basic rules. Each person gets 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your town of residence. And Samuel will go ahead and be our timer. We just ask that there not be any personal references or any individuals, any negative comments about any individuals. That this is all just public comment. Okay.
Just a question, are we looking at 2 minutes?
2 minutes,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
All right, so my number one here is Sarah Soul.
Should I say it here?
Either one, I think one of those mics.
Hello, I'm Sarah Soul. I'm a Ashland resident and a mother. I have 2 kids, one at Bellevue and one at the middle school. Thank you for your time. I'm here representing many parents in the community. We recently started a nonprofit called Ashland Parents for Safe Zone solutions, our motivation is to create safe zones and support for creating safe zones in all of our schools, particularly in Bellevue. It's where my daughter goes. Our idea really is structured around the building itself. I'm a big supporter of all of the new policies and language and training that's been going to our administration and to our teachers and to our parents to protect our kids in the event of a horrific tragedy, if it were to happen here. But we really feel that that is just not enough if the buildings themselves are not fortified with bullet-resistant doors, bullet-resistant glass. We would like to have an open forum to discuss this, the parents, with you and with the rest of the schools and the rest of the parents. We would like some transparency in how we fund this sort of idea and this operation. And most of all, we want to work with the school board. We are big fans of the Ashland School District. The teachers, the administrators here are like family to us. We care very much about them, as I'm sure you all do too. Is that my time?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing more from you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Next, I have Mariana Zimiti. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Thanks for having me. My name is Mariana Zamiti. I live in Ashland, and I am the grandmother of 2 Ashland students. And I am also a founding member of Ashland Parents for Safe Zones. And I'm here on this very, very sad anniversary of the Sandy Hook shooting, and to plead that this become an agenda and something that we have support on. We love the community. I love Ashland, and I would like to see the schools fortified so that these procedures that are being put in place to keep children safe, that are giving our teachers tools to manage the children if something horrific like a school shooter should happen. But we really feel that, we know the schools are not set up for safety. The glass, the doors, this is what happened at Sandy Hook. The doors were easily penetrated, and by the time the alarms were sounded, the principal was already dead. So, and the guidance counselor. I know this is horrific, but our beautiful community would be decimated. We really need to protect our school as we would for fire and for flood. And I'd also like to point out that it really is up to the district, because the state standards for school safety don't include school shooting. This is a relatively modern phenomenon that we are burdened with, and it is our burden. And I would like to see this move forward. I would like to see support for structural changes in the school. And, we will work towards whatever we can do to make this happen, to keep our schools safe. I think that's about 2 minutes. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and next I have Natalie Soul.
Hi, my name is Natalie Soul. I'm an Ashland resident, and I'm the step-parent of 2 children, one at Bellevue and one at Ashland Middle. I'm also a board member of the School Safe Zone Solution, and I'm here as a representative tonight. And as Mariana stated earlier, it is the anniversary of Sandy Hook. We feel that there's a massive flaw in child safety rights as it pertains to school shootings. School districts are not mandated to protect children and educators from school shooters. While many do their best, the truth is irrefutable. Schools cannot protect students with the hardware that is in place. School shootings don't have a place in the catastrophic emergency safety hazards like fires, earthquakes, and tornadoes, leaving children with no internal building safety features relevant to protecting them in this crisis time and time again. So we as an organization, our plan includes outside fortification as well as internal bullet-resistant school doors, creating a safe zone within the classroom. We feel that every time a catastrophe happens like this, we always say over and over again, how does this keep happening? So we're a group of parents and community members that are trying to affect some change. And knowing that these new safety standards are available and relatively affordable, we feel that we can't accept anything less. And we're hoping to work with our local community, specifically for Bellevue, but as the whole district, in a whole, as we felt that Bellevue didn't receive any safety upgrades in the last bond. So we're hoping to move this conversation forward, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next I have Tia McLean. We know where you're from.
I know. Hi, I'm Tia. I live in Ashland. I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here tonight and everyone in the house, and thank you to everyone who's spoken so far tonight. I am a public school teacher because public education provides access to all students. But without state funding, adequate state funding, our capacity to provide equitable access is compromised. Education is already underfunded in Oregon, and when additional unfunded state mandates are urgently pushed into our schools without money or time or process, it puts our already fragile systems at risk. I'm here to talk about the impacts of SB 819 on our state, our district, our staff, and our students. This well-intended special education legislation that's meant to provide more access by eliminating the abbreviated day, requiring more IEP meetings to increase parent-school communication, and restricting student seclusions has the potential to help students. Unfortunately, these requirements came swiftly from the state without financial support. Without resources, districts statewide are struggling to comply, resulting in OSHA complaints, contract negotiations to ensure safe working conditions for staff, and already fragile SPED departments and systems crumbling under these demands. Does this legislation keep staff and students safe? How many more injuries have teachers and educational assistants incurred? Does this legislation help districts hire and retain highly qualified staff? Special education positions are challenging to fill. How will SB 819 impact our ability to hire and retain staff? Does this legislation help districts provide a safe and welcoming learning environment for all of our students? When students who are dysregulated are required to be at school all day, how does that impact school-wide safety? How does it impact their ability to learn and feel successful? I'm just hoping everyone can get curious about it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tia. Okay, next I have Erin Finney.
Hi, I'm Erin Finney. I am a teacher in Ashland. I live in Ashland, but tonight I'm here as a parent because I also have a student at the middle school and a high school sophomore. I'm specifically here because my daughter, who is at the high school, has a 504, and I'm really concerned about the hiring freeze on counselors at the high school. Right now, their caseload is over 450 students. It's been affecting my family directly. I feel like because I am a teacher, I understand the process that should be followed with a 504, And because of the caseload these counselors have now, they're just set up for failure. I mean, this is almost impossible for them, if not impossible for them, to do what's expected of them and to follow the legal issues. I'm also the daughter of 2 high school counselors. So I grew up hearing a lot about the job, and there's just no way that the counselors could adequately do their job now. I've seen the effects personally in delays that shouldn't have happened. It's required me to reach out in order to get my daughter's accommodations in place. I appreciate the work that the staff is doing. When we had our 504 recently, I appreciated the counselor and the teachers that were there, but also it was really late. And I was the one who had to call to make it happen, and that's only because I know what needs to happen. I'm concerned about other families who aren't aware the process that needs to be followed. You know, the American School Counselors Association is recommending something like 250 students per counselor. The counselors at the high school have almost double that caseload. Counselors that are able to manage their caseload, I mean, it leads to, according to online, leads to better attendance, less disciplinary actions, better graduation rates. These are all things the district should be encouraging. And instead there's that freeze, and these counselors are set up for failure. The students' needs aren't being met. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, and my final speaker tonight is Lauren Jones.
Hi there. Thank you for all hearing us tonight. Lauren Jones, I'm a parent and actually Ashland School District alumni, so I've seen a lot of what's happened over the last 20-something years in the district. I want to also speak to the hiring freeze on the school counselors and seeing my own sort of lack of communication I've found as a parent and the lack of follow-through I've seen, and I think it's just the caseloads. I really do. I don't have any other explanation for it. I think our staff are overworked, specifically these school counselors that seek to want the best for these kids, and it's too much. It's just way too much. It's short and sweet. That's all I wanted to comment on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for bringing these very important issues into light. Next up, I better put on my glasses because I got lost here. District staff updates, so superintendent report with Samuel Bogdanoff.
All right. Well, the good news is we have one more learning day before winter break, but in talking with some of our teachers, they said it's going to be more of a crafts day, depending on the grade level. But one more day till winter break, which is exciting. It has been a very busy autumn, but an exciting one. We are readying for the first phase, I think, as Alan mentioned earlier, of the AHS science project. So our science folks at the high school have been engaged in the monumental task of trying to pack things up, and particularly a large common area with just a whole bunch of resources, many of them that have been there decades. So it's quite a feat. But we're going to be having a unpacking party at Lincoln Saturday morning. If board members would like to join, we can use as many hands as we can get. Actually, I think it's going to be a fairly small group at this point, but some of us will be over there helping out. So that's, you'll hear probably a little bit more about that from our bond folks. My phone won't be quiet now. There we go.
2 minutes.
All right. Hey, I'm on the agenda. All right. Thank you. I wanted to just share, and I think I've shared this at our previous board meeting, but we now have a team of 5 individuals nationally certified in conducting school safety and security audits. We hope to actually be doing some training and grading, so to speak, with some of the other teams in the Valley. 4 of those individuals are Ashland School District employees that have that certification, and one of them is Detective Bon Stewart with the Ashland Police Department. So over the course of time, we're going to be conducting safety and security audits on on a rotating basis through all of the schools to really look at what are the strategies and to continue to do our work there around safety and security and kind of the multi-layered approaches that we make. No one strategy is really appropriate for all of the issues that schools face, but simply having a walkthrough and looking with that critical eye and having that trained certification in school safety and security, I think is something that's going to be really beneficial. So we're looking forward to seeing some of those audits coming through. January 20th, we actually have a national trainer from one of the co-founders, in fact, of the I Would Love You Guys Foundation, which is the individuals responsible for helping us set up our standard response protocols for emergency situations. They've done a lot of training, so we're partnering with Eagle Point School District and a number of law enforcement agencies and others to bring that training here. Pace, our insurance company, is also engaged in that. So we'll have hopefully a number of staff will be able to attend that. Folks who are interested in learning a little bit more about some of our safety protocols can actually look at our website, go to the main page and look up safety, and it'll bring up a page that can provide a great deal of information. I wanted to talk just a little bit about the hiring freeze because it doesn't necessarily just apply to counselors. First, I really want to say we all understand and know the impact of school counselors and an effective school counseling program. And I anticipate that we'll be potentially hiring for that position for next year. Mid-year hires are particularly challenging because oftentimes if you're hiring somebody, the applicant pool is very small, and if they're coming from another district mid-year, there's also a substantial delay of 60 days before you can bring those individuals on board. So what we felt is that we've got some internal resources in our mental health and counseling district-wide that we're looking at doing some shifting around to better support the high school. So I think help is on the way. Hopefully I'll have some details on that we'll be able to share soon. But that hiring freeze really is district-wide, and that is based on the fact that we had a number, as you heard Tia talk about Senate Bill 819, that as well as some other additional unanticipated costs have put us roughly over $1 million over our anticipated budget. So until we are able to address those issues, we really have to tighten our belts. And so we're working on that and doing that work, as the board is aware, and we've talked about that a little bit before at the board meeting. So I just wanted to mention that. A highlight of my day today was I got to attend the Rotary, Ashland Rotary, and they honor Student of the Month every month from Ashland High School. This month we didn't do one in November, so we got to do two here in earlier today, and I just want to mention Tessa Hobein, senior, as well as Aiden Espinoza, who's also a senior, and it was great to see those kids and be able to honor them and present some of their background at Rotary and have them honored in that way. While I was there, Ivan Olinghouse showed up with a probably 30 or 40 combined group of choir and band kids for a number of holiday carols. It was pretty epic. Apparently they've been going around town to a number of businesses and a number of the senior living centers, so that was just a joy to be part of that. Although he had a couple of sad carols too, which was kind of interesting, but it all worked. So anyway, the way he explained it made good sense. And the other piece that I should share is we now, fortunately, we've seen the high school program grow dramatically with Ivan. Now that we've got Amy Merwin also doing choir for 6, 7, and 8, I think that's really going to keep that program running strong for a lot of years. And well, looking forward to seeing how much that is going to continue to grow. Lastly, I just want to wish all of our staff that have been working incredibly hard and are particularly grateful that tomorrow is the last craft day before winter break, a good and wonderful holiday season. So that's it.
All right. Thank you, Samuel. And I'll just throw in my 30 seconds of soapbox here, not as the voice of the board, but just as myself. As you guys all see, there's a lot of pieces here that kind of fit together what we're talking about. So, I mean, take this up. Take it to the next level. We are in need of attention here as public schools. Okay. Next is our capital bond report with Steve Mitzel and Mike Freeman. Mike here?
Yeah, Mike's on Zoom.
I think Mike is on the screen in front of you.
He's there next.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, hey guys. Hopefully you all can hear me.
Yeah, I think we can hear you.
Okay, great.
Thank you once again, and as always, I hate to say it, but I'm not sad that these bond reports are getting shorter as we work through these projects over the last 3 or 4 years here. Yeah, this one again is going to be shorter, probably even than the last one, as we are resolving issues at the, well, not issues, just wrapping up the projects at the other sites. So I'll let Mike jump into it. We'll spend a little bit of time on the outstanding projects, and then we'll talk about the high school for just a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Steve. And apologies, can't be there in person tonight, but happy to be here to report on the bond work for the month of November. So outside of the high school, work around the bond was fairly minimal. There were a couple open houses that were held at Walker Elementary, Hellman Elementary, as well as the Ashland Middle School. We had, a fair amount of participation in that, so it was great to be able to open those projects up and showcase some of the hard work that was put into those schools through the generous bond in the community. Outside of that, there were a few lingering items at Ashland Middle School that were addressed and worked on throughout this month. One of those being the roofing remediation for the moisture that's still being detected in that roof. So the roofing contractor is continuing to chase that down, remediate where there is moisture found in that roof, and also address some of those kind of root causes to make sure that it's not a continuing issue. Again, we're within our warranty period there, and that won't anticipate to start until all of those issues are worked out. So currently the district's not at risk, and we're continuing to kind of chase down that issue that we're seeing there to make sure that the roof is there for a long time and lasts as it should. Outside of that, pretty minimal work on the solar campus project there at the Trails site. They added some additional electrical boxes in preparation for the final piece, which is the city supplied transformer that should be here in February. So with the transformer arriving, that will conclude that project and we'll be able to wrap that up. Outside of that, really the work focused kind of around the high school project. As Samuel mentioned, we're really looking at transitioning into the start of construction on the science piece of the modernization project there. We completed the final design documents as those were created some value engineering through the process, estimating of those redesigned elements of the Ashland High School Science Building. So those documents are currently out to bid. They went out to bid yesterday, and we're anticipating the bids to come in on January 11th for that project. Looking ahead, that will mean that there will be an action item for that January work session for a recommendation to award the work for the Ashland Science Remediation Project. In addition to that, we've met several times with the Science Department to work through kind of the phasing and how that project will be progressing. And as you kind of heard, really appreciate the staff's cooperation there, getting everything moved out to start that work over the winter break. The work will start with some abatement and demo occurring in that science area of the science building. So again, like Steve said, pretty light report on work to date, but we should really see the work pick up as we move into that science building and start to progress for the overall Ashland High School project. I'll open it up to Steve if you have anything to add or if anybody has any questions there.
No, you wrapped it up really well. I think there's mentioning that we're trucking right along on the humanities building. We are also going to be moving the second floor humanities out and over to Lincoln. I think a lot of those boxes have already been moved over. And we'll start unpacking over the weekend and into next week. So the second floor humanities is now vacated, and work will start moving up from the first floor into that second floor, along with that first phase of science. So a lot going on the high school campus right now. Eva?
Can you just say in super plain words exactly what's happening to those buildings? So,
Yeah, I've actually answered this question quite a few times in the last few weeks. So what we're doing in the humanities building is primarily a seismic retrofit. So we're really shoring up that foundation down underneath the building and then running essentially a skeletal wall up the exterior of that to the roof and pinning that all in so that we can really say that that building's safe and sound and secure in the event of an earthquake. The humanities also had some restroom renovations and some HVAC upgrades. We also had some IT upgrades going in there. So a lot of stuff that you don't see, but it's going to have a major positive impact on that building. The science building, a lot of the same treatments, but we're doing some modernization of the interior spaces. You may not be aware that particular renovation was a building built around a building. They took a building that was existing and really just built a shell around it and then filled it with classrooms. So you can actually see the exterior building on the interior of the building if you walk through there. So we're trying to make sense of that, what they call the rat's maze on the inside of the science space there, and really modernize that space so it's more relevant to what they're doing today. And then it'll also get the same renovations of HVAC, IT upgrades. We're going to do some plumbing upgrades in there, change a few of the hallways and the way the interior spaces are utilized, create a prep space for them, and really just try to make it a more relevant science space.
I'd also add, Steve, some accessibility upgrades. So we did a lot of the ADA work last summer, but in addition to that, we'll be addressing any accessibility or ADA issues that are existing. Stuff like high thresholds, in addition to that, access control throughout both those sites, and then some additional site fencing will be installed as well.
Yeah, and a lot of those ADA upgrades were finished last summer, along with the stairs that we wrapped up this year. Those were all part of that project as well.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So can I just ask quickly, as far as restroom renovations, because I know that has been a significant concern at the high school. Is that, are we like really rebuilding, or does that just mean?
So in the humanities building, we are rebuilding and adding new restrooms. They'll be attached to that elevator tower. We are renovating all the restrooms on the interior of the science building. We're also renovating the restrooms on the interior of the English building. The only restrooms that are not going to get any treatment are the ones that are right off the quad right now. So I'd say 90% of the restrooms on that side of the building will have major renovation.
Okay.
So the English building won't be probably until next summer, but we'll start working on the science building this spring.
Okay, thank you. And then those seismic upgrades, that was sort of a separate grant, correct? That was sort of integrated into the bond, so we got
yes
some
and
extra.
no. The initial bond language was for there to be a seismic retrofit, so we would have done that regardless. But we did go out to receive a grant, and we were awarded $2.5 million for that. So that just adds to that project there.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you, Mike and Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
All right. Our next item is the Student Success Act. That's a lot of words. Student Investment Account Grant with Assistant Superintendent Erica Bear.
There's not a slideshow, but it would be helpful to pull up the actual agreement in this case, if that's possible. It's in the board book. So the last time I was here last month talking about the SIA grant, I went through all of the details of the grant and the requirements of the grant and our activities with the grant. All of that has been submitted and now authorized by the state and by the superintendent, and now has to be shown that we have discussed it here. The primary difference between this and a typical kind of grant agreement has to do with the achievement targets. So our specific achievement targets are actually listed in the grant agreement. It's way down there, so I'll scroll in a second. But the actual goals that we set, which was based on our own individual data as a school district, are included. And depending on how we do on those markers will indicate whether or not the state will, I think they called it intercede, but let me pull up the
But the accountability with this grant is a little bit different because it really is based on our progress towards the goals that were set collaboratively with the state. And it's kind of buried way in here, so I apologize for that. Took me a while to find it. It's even below the signatures. There we go. And this is part of the integrated plan, so this idea that we're going to integrate, SIA and high school success and attendance and all of these different pieces into one. So as we go through each quarter, we'll be marking our progress towards these goals with early signs of progress, intermediate changes, substantial and significant changes. This is how we kind of rate ourselves based on our progress. And it explains what that is. For us, our goals, and these were reviewed with you all back in June, I want to say, but having to do with graduation rates, both 4-year and 5-year, cohort completion, 9th grade on track data, 3rd grade ELA proficiency, and then regular attendees. So we're going to be working hard to meet our targets, as of course we always would. The state is specifically interested in all 3 types of targets are named in the grant. OD will review and consider when or if intervention, that is the word I was looking for, is needed using only the baseline and gap closing target. So that's what they're really looking at. And if we are not making the sort of progress that we need to, then they would provide intervention for us. And so that is kind of the difference in this grant agreement than what we're probably used to seeing. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes, Jill.
This was hard for me to understand what was happening here exactly. I mean, in the writing, where on section A on page 20, like early signs of progress, is that is that just generic language that is on all of everyone's? Okay.
Yes. So essentially, as we are rating ourselves in these areas, this is kind of how we are, the sort of rubric language we would use to determine how we're doing. So if we're, and for community engagement, for example, we would be looking at, are we in early signs? Are we getting more established? Have we made substantial progress based on this rubric language?
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then the kind of percentage goals starting on page 22 and 23, are those, I just noticed there's no, it just starts with this year. Mm-hmm. Obviously we have past year's experience, but they don't kind of measure our current year based on past years at all?
They do. So these numbers are what we came up with together jointly based on the previous data. So we had to set goals for ourselves here based on the previous, I think, 3 years data. And we had some choices about whether we could take an average as our baseline, whether we wanted to take, kind of a low or high from our baseline through those 3 years. It was a difficult time for baseline data because it did include the data from 2021. But we worked on that as a group to kind of figure out how we wanted to set those targets. And then that had to be worked on with both the SUESD, who has an ODE kind of liaison, and then OD ultimately had to be collaboratively determined with ODE. So the targets, we could not, for example, because our graduation rate is what it is, we couldn't set it, obviously, without making progress. It would have to be a higher number than where we were previously. So all of the goals were set based on how we had done in the last 3 years.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I just have, one more question.
Please.
I just noticed just some low percentages with the 3rd grade ELA proficiency and the regular attenders on the gap closing targets. And I guess I just wanted, is this typical across the state? Is this can you just maybe explain what's happening there, especially with the third grade?
Sure. Third grade ELA, that's going to be based on our Smarter Balanced Assessment. And so this was based on the data that we had going in terms of how our third graders were doing. And that is not, it is actually pretty high for the state. And so we are excited to make significant progress in that area. Yep, attendance is something that historically we've struggled with attendance, and that has been even more true coming out of COVID. And so we've not yet returned to pre-COVID attendance rates. And so that is something we are concerned about and actively working on.
So that third grade cohort, those are the kids who were kindergarten or first grade.
Yeah, so this would have been based on the previous 3 years' data. This one was tricky since we didn't take the Smarter Balanced all 3 of those years. And so in fact, we only had 1 year, and it was the first year. So I think these are artificially depressed in terms of, I anticipate we're going to do much better this year. And this was based on how we had done in the previous 3 years and the information we had.
Mm-hmm. But they just choose third grade. That's
and that's a state. Yeah, that was kind of the state option. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of research and information about the correlation between third grade reading and long-term success.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, Erica.
Okay, and next we have the High School Success Act grant with AHS Principal Ben Bell.
This is such a
Nice sweater. Look at that. That is the best.
I'm wearing the sweater. It was ugly sweater day today.
We take you more seriously. That's great. I love it. I mean, that one's pretty nice.
I think this is yours.
Yes.
I don't know what that is. Let that go away.
I'm going to say, got it.
Yeah, got it.
All right. Yes, my name is Ben Bell. I'm the proud principal of Ashland High School, and it's my pleasure tonight to talk to you a bit about the High School Success Act, which is an important source of funding for a number of our critical programs. It is a grant which was created before I moved to Oregon, I want to say 5-6 years ago, by Measure 98. And for us, our goal areas around the High School Success Act really revolve around some key measures, and we try to make sure that they are in line with district goals and the student investment account as well. So they focus on areas of on-time graduation, our 9th grade on-track rate, and the 9th grade on-track rate is calculated by, at the end of a school year, what percentage of our 9th graders are finishing that year for us with 12 credits, and 12 credits equates to 1/4 of the credits a student needs to graduate on time in 4 years. It supports our career technical education programs and dropout prevention and credit retrieval programs as well. So in the area of supporting 9th grade on-track rates, a significant amount of money goes towards FTE to support our Grizz Academy program. Grizz Academy is a 9th grade course. We consider it a tier 1 or a base level intervention, and it's really designed specifically to help integrate students into high school and get them familiar with basic things like high school credits, grades, what the resources are on campus, where resources are accessible, and then as the year progresses, we move into life skills and developing counselors visit and help our students create their 4-year plans, get them interested and knowledgeable about transcripts and the course offerings that we have at the high school. Currently, the High School Success Act pays for one of our counselors, so it supports counseling. And then we have a number of supports in place as well across campus to support ninth grade on track, including regular PLC meetings, that's professional learning communities, where in this case especially our integrated math 1 teachers, so that's most of our ninth graders take that course, and our ninth grade humanities teachers are meeting regularly to lesson plan together to compare data and make sure that we're making adjustments as we need to continue to support students. And this year, I'm really happy we've been able to work with AMS in some articulation efforts with our math and English departments so that long-term we're better able to bridge successfully our 8th graders as they move into 9th grade. So to show you a little bit some of the progress that we've made over the past few years, at the conclusion of the 2021 school year, our on-track rate was 75%, which was pretty consistent statewide. That was COVID, so that was hard on everybody. At the conclusion of last school year, we were at 92.5%, so really significant growth. And our goal is 93% by 2025, so we're just about there. For career technical education, just a quick overview, we have a number of programs of study at Ashland High School that fall under CTE. We have technical theater. We have a manufacturing pathway, which includes woods, computer-aided design, and computer-aided manufacturing, mechanics, culinary arts, business and marketing, visual arts and design, and that's really our graphic arts courses. And soon to come, this is in development right now, a video production pathway as well. And so as we move on, we're going to continue to explore new opportunities to incorporate CT into our course offerings wherever we can. And participation in advanced courses is another significant goal area for us. We want to continue to increase the share or the percentage of students that are accessing advanced coursework each year. And advanced courses include any dual credit courses. So those are high school courses that earn both high school credit and potentially college credits as well. So we have agreements with SOU and Rogue Community College for that. Any honors designated courses, and any intermediate and advanced CTE courses. So at the end of last school year, we were at 62%, and we want to be at 75% by the 2025 school year. So we've got a little room to go there. And in the area of dropout prevention and credit retrieval, High School Success Act supports the Grizzly Online Academy, which we developed and launched the 2021 school year. Again, that was COVID, and it was a way to try to make sure that we were meeting the needs of families and students as we were coming out of that were unable to come back to school full-time. And we've scaled that down a bit over the past few years, but it continues to fill a need for a number of our students that need to get their education that way. It also includes our credit retrieval software, which is Edmentum, and it also pays for FTE to support our GED program as well. We also pay for our contract with Project Youth Plus. They work with a number of students, about 20 or so, and they do things like connect them with scholarships, take them on community and college visits, get them resources when they need to, and it's a really great support for families that might be first-time college students or students that are otherwise at risk. So, and And all of this is to support our graduation rate, which at the end of last school year, we're estimating, this is unofficial data, to be about 91 or 92%. And that's in comparison to the Oregon average, which is about 81%. So we want to continue to see that grow, but we're proud that we're well above the state average there. And our goal there is to be at a 93% average by 2025. And that's where we are. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead. I just have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
For the graduation rate, students that drop out and then get a GED within, say, a couple of years, where do they fall in that? Do they?
Yeah, they don't get counted in our 4-year graduation rate. They can be counted in a separate statistic that's the 5-year completer rate.
So the approximate 9% of the class of 2024 can include students that have a GED or are getting one.
That's a separate measure. So like this year's senior class, the 4-year graduation rate would be current seniors that started their 9th grade year 4 years ago that are part of that group.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, just to follow up, does that mean last year's students who got their GED would be included in these? Like,
so any student that earned their GED last year would have been included in last year's 5-year completer rate, which is a different measure than the 4-year graduation rate, which I'm showing you here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, because graduation is not the same as getting a GED, and I think
Correct.
that's an important
Yes.
distinction. Yeah.
Thanks.
And yet I just want to mention, if a GE, we always want kids to graduate with a diploma and earn a diploma, but life often intervenes, and sometimes a GED is a really powerful opportunity for a kid, and so I want to celebrate those kids as well, and just putting that out there.
Yeah, thanks. The Grizzly Online Academy and Edgenuity, that is it just the software, or is it the staff as well funded through the High School Success Act?
Both.
Both.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
I think that's
Thank
it.
you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up we have our finance report with Director of Business Services, Scott Whitman.
I was about to say, where's that chocolate?
Noisy bag.
Years after none continuous.
Thank you, Board. Jackie makes this very easy for me. We'll just start right here. So this is our November 30th finance report for our general fund, as you see in your packet and on the screens to the side there. The biggest news to report for the general fund on the revenue side, the top of a page there would be November, as the property owners in Ashland know, is the month where property taxes are due. So we collect the bulk of our property taxes in November. As you can see, they're close to $15 million, and we are close to 90% of our receipts for the year come in the month of November. So we're tracking pretty good there. No other, as far as the rest of the revenues go, included in the tax receipts on the next section there, the youth activity levy, academics and activity levy. Those taxes come in at the same time as part of the same tax collection by the county. So that's why you see the high percentage of collection there for the year to date. And we compare positively over our collection rates over last year. So we like that trend. So revenues pretty much as expected, and same for expenses. We're still battling, like we've talked in the past couple of years. If you look at the very bottom and in the middle column that's highlighted, We are still trending to overspend by about $1 million. That would bring our fund balance down to roughly $1 million, which is much lower than the board recommended, or actually the board policy fund balance. We should remain about at least 8% of our balance, and that gets us below 3%. So that is something we're working on. We're identifying some openings in some of our grant funding that we just talked about earlier. In the SIA grant, there may be some room there that those grant revenues were a little bit higher than expected this year, so that will ease up some of the pressure on our general fund so we can have some relief there. Not enough to solve our problem, but just some relief. So again, early in the year, we are tracking closely and working on plans to address our overspending as we go forward still. So are there any questions? Russell?
I'm just trying to formulate letters to representatives, but if SB 819 wasn't in effect right now, do you have a solid figure of like how much of a difference?
Sure. So far this year, it's almost $500,000 that we're spending in staffing that we were not spending at this time last year for staff directly involved with that measure, with those extra requirements for bringing in those students. Okay. So roughly half of our deficit is, I would say, directly related to that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, my understanding was there even more sort of soft costs associated with that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of employee time with the reporting requirements with that Senate bill. And so that employee time is paid, so that's part of that dollar amount, but it does take away from other work that has to be put aside and delayed. So there's a lot of impact with that. So.
Dan?
And it's new statute and what I think Tia mentioned earlier. It's one of those unfunded mandates that we have to deal with.
Yeah,
so.
Well-intentioned, but
sure,
not
yeah,
supported.
Definite need, but there's no funding that came with it, so
yeah.
It's hard.
I've got a question for you, Scott. If I remember correctly, last month, same time, or last couple months, you're projecting end of the year at under $1 million. And so we're doing a couple hundred thousand better now in the projections.
Yeah, and that's as we get further on in the year, you can start getting better ideas of how we're spending, especially in the staffing side. So much of our spending is on staffing. So if there are changes, and unfortunately this gets into a little bit about the discussion about a hiring freeze. So there's been a couple of changes over the past couple of months. So that does have an effect on our bottom line. But yeah, it comes at a cost. That was pretty clearly made earlier in the public comments. So.
Is there any, I noticed that the projections for the, on the revenue side is like just very nominally increased for the property taxes over last year. Any hope that that's I'm hoping that you made a very conservative.
Yeah, but the issue with property taxes, it's part of our state's funding formula.
Right.
So what happens is if we collect more property taxes than we project going into for the year, if you look at the second line on the first line on the report there, where it's the budget of $12.525 million. If we collect more in property taxes, the state school fund portion will go down by that equal amount because we're allocated a dollar amount per student. The bulk of it in Ashland, because our tax base is so high, comes from property taxes. But because of that equalization piece, if we collect more than we anticipate in taxes, our state funding piece, based on the statewide income tax collection, will be decreased. So there's no gain. There's no gain there. So I generally try to budget conservatively because I don't want to hurt the other side of that formula.
I guess what I'm looking for, I'm looking for a little bit of hope, but I guess from the place of, if statewide enrollments are down, then it does increase that ADMW
amount, so it could, in essence, increase the amount we receive. Are you getting any information in that regard?
Every so often the state releases new estimates for the current year. We did receive one a couple of days ago, but there was very, very minimal change for Ashland.
$3,000.
Yeah, just a few $1,000s, which is it's money, but it's not anything that changes anything. Doesn't change it. Doesn't change any planning on our side. So.
I actually have a question for Samuel. It's a little tangential, but that 500,000 really just very much struck me. Have we talked with Representative Marsh and State Senator Golden to ask them to come chat with us? And
Sure. Actually, and I really want to express my gratitude to Representative Marsh, Senator Golden, and also Senator Susan McLean. We've engaged really throughout the last legislative session a great deal on a number of bills, but in particular SB 819, and it's gotten a lot of focus across the state. So we've been in fairly regular communication, of course, with Representative Marsh. She's actually coming out to talk with our staff and our teachers and principals around the issue. I participate in a weekly or by every other week session with other superintendents in the region, talking with Representative Marsh and others around a variety of issues, and SB 819 has been a significant one. The law is absolutely with the best intention. It's about providing access to a full day in a public school setting for any student. The real challenges come in that many of these students have significant issues self-regulating. They require extra supports, and they require supports that are trained in physical management and intervention to keep them safe, to keep staff safe, and so on and so forth. So these are kids with a high level of need, and it's right that public schools should serve them, but we were asked to come up with this overnight, and there were cost issues with that, there were workforce issues with that, and it has been a tremendous challenge. And the staffing costs have just been close to another $500,000, but as I think Becca mentioned, the soft costs are pretty impactful in terms of the hours. There are a number of regular meeting requirements every 30 days if you have a kid on a shortened day, and those kinds of things that just take their toll on staff time. So it's a lot of issues with it. But the short answer is yes. We have been working and sharing a lot of information with Representative Marsh and Senator McLean, who is on the Senate Education Committee.
do you have a sense that there's going to be money?
I don't think in this short session, from what I'm hearing, that we can anticipate any new funding for this or any major changes in the legislation, despite all of the efforts and attention that has been focused on this. One of the comments made was this looks like something that might take 5 years to really get the bill to be able to do and support schools in doing what it is intended to do, which is absolutely good, is to make sure that all kids have what they need. So that's a little bit discouraging. Yeah.
I've got another question for Samuel on the same note. So you were saying that it is kind of diverting staff time toward addressing the thing, but that applies to you too as well, correct? So am I understanding that there is additional reporting that you have to do that sort of bypasses your accountability to us, but directly to the state for this? And how much time are you spending personally on 819?
Well, I have a day scheduled next week. So, I haven't had to spend a great deal of time with it currently, but it is incumbent on me to review every case where a student attends less than a full day if they're on an IEP or a 504. So that includes programs like any student on even if it is a placement that the parent agrees with, right? Such as our online school, because it's not a full school day, or we have to do all the paperwork, and I have to review each of those cases for compliance and sign off on each of those. Fortunately, I've got incredible support staff in Assistant Superintendent Bear and Serena Robinson over in Student Services that really do a lot of that work, but I will sit down and review all of those next week so that we can report to the state.
Do you have an idea of the time cost beyond the...
We are, we've had a couple of conversations regionally with other superintendents and our state representatives and senators. Really, we're trying to gather a number of stories about impact. We're also trying to really break down those time costs as well as those hard costs over here so that we can better inform our legislators about what the impact of this bill has been. And it's a bill that really almost died because there were so many issues with it, and at the last minute came back. So it's the kind of hasty legislation that has, unfortunately, a pretty strong negative impact. But so we are trying to gather exactly that information of how many hours is this taking and putting that together to be able to share with our legislators.
Yeah, I will say from the OSBA conference, it was universally problematic. Every single district is just reeling from the effects of it.
I mean, it's appalling to hear the 5-year outlook on that. I mean, when this is having such a direct impact, I mean, we heard, again, about the direct fallout is that we now can't hire more counselors for the high school because, we're in a hiring freeze. So, I mean, it's a real immediate problem.
It is.
We're good?
Okay, sorry.
We're good.
Big tangent.
We're moving, so anyway, that's the general fund there. The next part, we bring this kind of the monthly questions for management. There's nothing to report here out of the ordinary until we get to the bottom, and I will report the monthly discussion questions. We did receive our fiscal year 2022 audit finally. We've talked for quite a while about where the heck it is, but so finally was submitted or delivered to us in early November, and I will review that with you on our next section here. So with that, we'll go on. Let me skim by this piece here. The next one I want to go through. So this is all in your board packet. I also have the hard copies here that I can hand out after the meeting here if you wish to have them. So one thing the auditors do every year is they submit, separate from the audit report itself, but they have what they call a communication to the governing body for the year ended June 30, 2022. And again, this is a report that should have been done by December of 2022, but here we are. So the report to the governing body is basically a letter to the school board. The school board is the one, in the end, directly responsible for the fiscal operations of the district. And basically, the letter goes over the purpose of the audit, what the auditor's responsibility and what the board's responsibility is. It goes over the result of the audit, and it does talk about any kind of significant audit findings or other audit matters. So again, the purpose of the audit is described there on the first page, scope of the audit, the result of the audit, which is the first page I always look towards. On page 2 there, we have an unmodified opinion of the basic financial statements. Basically, that means that it's a clean audit report, and that's the highest rating that can be given. State minimum standards, item number 2 there, we found no major or no exceptions or issues requiring comment, except as noted on page 65 of the report, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Federal awards, there was one instance of non-compliance, which we'll also talk about in a minute, and no questioned costs. And they have not issued a separate management letter. A management letter would come if there was a significant issue that they needed to discuss with the board. So that letter is available for you to read, and again, I'll have a physical copy to you too. I have to go the other direction. Got a little bit out of order here. The next piece, and this comes directly out of the audit report itself, but I usually print this up separately because it's well down towards the end of the audit, but it kind of summarizes more easily to find. It summarizes the findings and any kind of question costs that there might be. So number 1 on the financial statements, again, it says there's an unmodified opinion where any material weaknesses, when they talk about our internal controls, this is how we operate our fiscal practices, basically. Were there any material weaknesses identified? No. Were there any significant deficiencies identified that what may be a deficiency but not considered a material weakness, and they say, and the answer there is yes, and I'll talk about that here in a second. And no other findings to mention there. The significant deficiency is regarding our the condition here regarding our bank reconciliation process. Basically, we do it kind of on a paperless method. It's all done electronically. What the auditors were looking for and that are commenting on here is that we should have printed out those reconciliations every month, physically reviewed and signed them. So while the reconciliations happened by another member of our accounting staff, the auditors did not see that I physically printed and signed the reports every month. So I will correct that action going forward from here. But they kind of describe what their views on that matter. One item that I mentioned briefly in that first letter, they talked about a comment on page 65 of the report, and instead of flipping through 65 pages of the report here coming up next, there were 3 or 4 instances where we went over budget in some of these spending categories, one in our general fund and in 3 areas of our special revenue funds. And that generates a comment in the notes section of our actual financial report, which I can bring up here in a little bit. This is the audit report itself. And again, this will be, I have copies of it here for you. This will also be posted on our website as we're finished here, and it is available to the public. The comment that they are referring to as far as the budget goes, games, what a deal. I'm not sure where that came from. So there's, all of our financial statements are in there. And then when you get to the notes for the audit, which are probably one of the more informative pieces of the audit report, it talks about all of our accounting practices and such. Okay, here under the budget section, the budget process, the budget committee goes through and recommends a budget. The board adopts appropriation spending levels. What happened back in 2022 in that middle paragraph there, or towards the end of that middle paragraph, the general fund transfers were overspent by $9,000. Special revenue funds, instruction by $723,000. Support services by $456,000, and community service and those other items mentioned there. So if you remember back during the 2022 year, we made a large appropriation transfer with the board having to do with the ESSER grant. That was the federal funds that were used to support the pandemic and the extra staffing that we had on hand, where we transferred about $5 million in extra spending appropriation to the special revenue funds. That wasn't enough for the spending that we actually ended up with during the year. And so that's what this is referring to. Basically, the idea is we don't want to overspend what the board authorizes us to spend. So that was the other finding that the auditors came up with. Are there any questions? Eva?
Yeah, so on the letter, I was looking at the end where it talks about best practices, not significant deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious about the, apparently we carry cash and investment balances in excess of our insurance coverage amount. I was kind of curious about that.
Kind kind of a conservative, it goes back a little bit to with our discussion or the policy about our fidelity or the crime coverage. Auditor's opinion in this case is that we should carry crime coverage to cover all of our cash balances that we have. So that if I were to abscond with all the cash in the district, our insurance would cover it. The issue there is that's not realistic, I guess, especially since we had probably $80 or $90 million in bond funds that are sitting there. We can't.
Sure.
The cost to insure against that type of a loss, I guess, would be prohibitive. So that's what they're referring to. In a perfect world, everything should be insured and there should be no risk. But
what about the password protection on accounting? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so
Steve's gone, which is too bad because
No.
I know he's talked about password issues a lot.
yeah, so Pace, our insurance carrier, over the past couple of years, there's been a lot more issues with cybersecurity, and we do have cyber security insurance or cyber crime insurance that we carry. Part of the qualifications, I guess, to have that insurance is to implement stronger password protections. And so, again, this report was from June 2022. Since then, we have had implemented higher password and requirements to change passwords at least once a year.
Oh, good.
To actually make us eligible for that type of insurance. PACE will not cover us if we don't have that coverage. So since that, even though the report was just issued in a month ago, it was referring to where we were a year and a half ago. So since then, it's been changed. We've improved solidified our practice, I guess, on our network security. So there's been some grumbling because now we have to change passwords once a year.
Oh, you poor things.
but it's true. It's requiring a much longer password too. I think 12 characters. So it's yeah.
We're just, coming from SOU, it's just a whole nother level.
Everywhere
so,
you sign into your bank account, you have to have a dual authentication, and so we're moving in that direction too to start requiring a dual authentication for all of our systems too. So that's coming up in this next year. So even more.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And like I said, after the meeting, I'll pass out the actual audit report and the letters. They're online, but maybe easier to look at in paper. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott. So we can move on to unfinished business, where we will have a second reading of Board Policy IGDJ, Interscholastic Activities, second reading.
Right.
Samuel Bogdanov.
So I was able to get a little more information about exactly what they're talking about when they're talking about voluntary organizations. And there are two main ones that we work with and potentially a few other smaller ones. So we added some language there that talks about, they're really talking about the Oregon School Activities Association and the Southern Oregon Middle School Athletic Conference, and making sure that when we're working with those folks, they're held accountable to the same standards and policies that we have, and that both organizations handle it in a similar way. So we added some language there specifically stating those two organizations. Now, there are some other organizations that we work with. For example, there's a Rogue Valley Basketball Officials Organization where we will, hire a referee or something like that, and this would also apply to them, but there are enough of them that we didn't necessarily call those out. We put the two bigger ones on there so that it's very clear. So that was the one change since last time, and then the other piece, we had a second change, and the second change is really based on the statute, and it's down on the very last page. And we went back to the original language provided by OSB that the district will annually review, rather than periodically, review interscholastic activities and participation to determine whether the current offerings reflect the students that the district serves. And the recommendation that I move forward, and as well as Patrick Grady, is to keep all of the language in yellow that's recommended but optional by OSBA in the policy.
All right. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Does this apply to like non-profit sports? Like I'm thinking of Ashland Grizzlies or Ashland Junior Grizzlies. They're like a bunch of basketball teams.
Well, it could if we had some type of fiscal relationship with them or we're contracting with them. I think it talks about.
So it's more when the district is paying them, not the other way around.
Correct. I mean, we have other mechanisms in place for if it's a school-sponsored or a club sport, we do have some expectations for club sports, right? But we aren't necessarily contracting with them for any purpose.
Okay. Yeah. So it wouldn't include like the Ashland Soccer Club and all this sort of independent.
That's my understanding. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And the policy, I went by it and went through the OAR, which there's a link to it up at the very top, follows the Oregon administrative rules pretty much throughout. So, not a lot of creativity on this.
All right. So are we voting on approving this? Or?
You can vote or do a third read at another time if you feel like it's.
Let's vote. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve, I'm just going to do the best I can here, policy IGDJG1 as amended by Samuel.
Do I have a second? Dan? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Pass. All right. Thank you, Samuel. Next, we have 2024-2025 Budget Committee recruitment, and that goes back to Scott Whitman.
I think you stuck your name on it because you're the budget guy.
Okay. So as you know, we have.
Thought he was done.
He just found out.
Sorry.
I saw my name earlier. This is more informational, I believe. So until we get to the next couple of pieces down. So in your packet is a copy of the Budget Committee recruitment notice that went out. We have 3 Budget Committee openings. A copy of the application is there in your packet. And then there's also a list of the current Budget Committee members as well as the open slots there. So there were 2 vacancies that are because of expiring terms that were noted there. Peter Cottle and Brian Pistole were their terms expired. And then Marcel Hatch's term is available because he's now a school board member and will be on the Budget Committee as well, but as a board member piece there. So his term needs to have a member to complete that term. So that's what that part is. And this kind of gives you the process of what we have. And there's nothing to do on that one.
Oh, we have.
And I'm assuming that those 2 whose term is expiring are not re-upping or whatever. Call it.
We have 3 applications. That's a couple items down, but let's go to the next item first here. 11B1 is the proposed budget calendar for the 24-25 school year. And so that's kind of created same basic process as we have for the past couple years. The first kind of goes over the publication, the notice process, and then a list of the first 3 formal Budget Committee meetings beginning in April. We will work towards getting an informal meeting, a meeting with the state legislators to engage in a budget discussion with the board, and we'll usually do that in January or February. It'll be very timely this year, very important discussion. And then the Budget Committee meetings, again, will start in kind of mid-April, and it kind of goes through that process there. So that I think we should have the board approve. If you have any questions or any concerns with the timeline there, we do have to have the budget adopted by June 30th every year. So.
Okay, so I will take a motion to approve the calendar as presented.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Thank you. And then in your packet on 11B2 are the 3 applications that we have received.
Well, that's very convenient. We have
It's
3
very
applications
convenient,
and 3
yes.
empty
Yeah.
slots. So, are we voting on those tonight, or not yet?
That's up to you. I mean, if they've been reviewed and they seem like
do we
very...
have time to wait till the next board meeting?
What's our deadline?
Yes, and we'll usually have that first budget meeting sometime in January with probably Senator Golden and Representative
Yes,
March.
we definitely want
so.
everybody there. Okay, now I just want to get back to, sorry.
But it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the
I mean, that is an informational meeting, not a meeting
Correct.
of the business of the, okay.
I mean, has anybody spoken directly to the departing 2 members just to make sure that they aren't interested in retaining their seat?
I have not contacted them directly, no.
So maybe we should do that before we vote?
That would be good.
I think that would be sort of a courteous thing to do. And then we can vote. Can we vote on that or I guess we don't have a work session this month anyway. So it would
January
have to
11th,
be,
special session.
yeah, we could either have a special session, if we hear back from them, we could maybe do it a little sooner than the next regular meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right, wow, we're moving right along through this. Yay. Okay, the last item, I believe, is our OSBA annual elections ballot. So there were 3 items that we were, where did my agenda go? Sorry, my computer just froze. Jackie, or do you have a way to pull those up, those 3 things? I think we were pretty much set just to vote on them, that we had discussed in the past. But I can't pull them up right now.
Well, there were the 2, there were the,
The one was the
LPC
candidate,
position,
and then the 2
rural
regarding
caucus.
the rural.
rural
Yeah.
caucus things,
Okay.
amendment, the addition of the caucus and the bylaws amendment.
Okay.
And I'm happy to read them.
So, sure, if you have them in front of you, maybe that would be
So
helpful.
the
One at a time.
the first thing up is the LP position 5. Vote for 1.
Vote for
Sarah
1.
Crawford, Phoenix Talent 4 is our candidate.
Okay, so do we just raise our hand if we all are in favor of voting for?
Yeah, you have to actually vote one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor of Sarah Crawford for the open position? There we go.
I was impressed by her in our regional meeting. I thought she did a good job.
Excellent, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
The next one is Resolution 1, create the Oregon Rural School Board Members Caucus and designate a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee. It's yes, adopt, or no, do not adopt.
Okay, so all in favor?
All opposed? Do we do that?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the Resolution 2, adopt the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws. Yes, adopt, or no, do not adopt. But that pertains to the bylaws allowing the rural caucus. So
What's this?
So do we still vote, or is that just sort of an NA since we voted against?
I think we should probably still vote.
We should
I think you should still vote because I have to fill out the ballot tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor? All opposed?
You didn't give them enough to drink, honey.
Okay. That was that. So, I think that takes care of
Yay.
everything. So, I am down to announcements and appointments. The board will not hold a work session in December, as winter break is from December 18th through January 1st, 2024. The board will meet in executive session on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 at 5 p.m. to review the recommendations from Human Capital Enterprises for selecting a group of semi-finalist candidates to move forward in the superintendent recruitment process. Okay, so that's an executive session meeting. And the next regular session meeting will be held on Thursday, January 11th, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. in the City Council chamber right here in Ashland. A Zoom link will also be available. This meeting of the Ashland School Board is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Those of you